In terms of the legacy of racial theories, one of the stereotypes or labels that have endured is around black people, sex, and sexuality. These stereotypes include promiscuous, hypersexual, sexually available, and having an animalistic sexuality. Many of these have a connection to slavery and the sexualized exploitation that took place, but some of the labels predate Atlantic slavery. The racial theories date back over 700 years and cover three themes: the amount of sexual activity, the size and shape of sexual organs, and the suitability for sexual activity. Countless acts of physical and sexual abuse took place during the times of slavery and colonialism. These theories were used not only as an excuse for the sexual crimes, but to place the blame on the victims. Beyond these periods, there were also the allegations of rape or sexual impropriety that were used as the basis, or more factually, the concocted excuse, for lynchings and violence against black people. Before conquest and slavery, the German Dominican monk Saint Albert the Great, known in Latin as Albertus Magnus, claimed in the 13th century that their hot climate made black women more suitable to have sex with. He was not the only person at this time to make such a claim. The Spanish philosopher and physician Arnaud de Villanova wrote that the hot climate resulted in black people, quote, frequently engaging, like a beast, in sex regardless of sex, age, and species. Once conquest and slavery were underway, the stereotypes used to justify sexual exploitation began. As we discussed in the video on exploration and Christianization, a passenger on Christopher Columbus's second voyage in 1495, an Italian nobleman, Michele de Cuneo, recorded an encounter in Puerto Rico. His journal stated, quote, I captured a very beautiful Carib woman. You would have thought she had been brought up in a school for whores. Soon after, these labels about sexual behavior made their way into literature and seem to have been familiar to William Shakespeare. In his play Othello, The Moor of Venice, written in 1603, Othello is described by another character, Roderigo, as a lascivious Moor. As British explorers encountered African people, the same stereotypes were found in their accounts. Thomas Herbert not only accused them of rape, but described them as sexually shameful, and alleged that they mated with baboons. Alfred Dapper, a Dutch physician and geographer, published Description of Africa in 1668. It described Africa and Africans based on the accounts of others, as Dapper never visited the continent. Despite this, the 1686 edition stated that, quote, the Negro makes little ado in conducting his amorous affairs. The extreme liberty the girls enjoy provides ample opportunity to make their acquaintance, and for this reason they do not remain virgins for long. This set the stage for those involved in Atlantic slavery to incorporate these labels to justify both slavery itself and the sexual abuse that was part and parcel of life on plantations. The slavers Edward Long and Brian Edwards both justified slavery, creating the impression that the people who were enslaved were not normal human beings. One of the ways they did this was by describing their sexual relations as promiscuous and by comparing it to the sexual behavior of animals. What is more factual is that the slavers were treating humans like animals, and the labels helped to rationalize this conduct in their own minds. Over 600 years after Saint Albert the Great had written that black women were more suitable to have sex with, the French anatomist, anthropologist, and physician Paul Broca put forward the very similar argument. He suggested that there was no problem when sex happened between a white man and a black woman, but if sex took place between a black man and a white woman, that the woman would suffer, and that the sex is not only painful, but frequently non-productive. Broca's theory is not only unscientific, but is highly convenient to a time period where white men sexually abused black women with impunity and where the allegations of rape or sexual impropriety were used as excuses for lynchings and violence. Broca's ideas also helped those who were in favor of anti-miscegenation laws, as it added a supposedly scientific basis to their views. To provide context, miscegenation is a term that was used to describe the mixture of races by marriage or by sexual intercourse. The laws existed in apartheid South Africa, Nazi Germany, and several states in the U.S. until they were repealed in the 20th century. It seems inconceivable in the 2020s that such laws existed less than 75 years ago. However, it is important to remember that even in the 1950s, the decade my parents were born, the stereotypes about African people's sex and sexual activity and their acceptance as scientific facts were even promoted by the World Health Organization. Their 1953 publication, The African Mind in Health and Disease, even stated that an obsession with sex was an inborn feature of African people. It includes the following quote: "The wholehearted concentration on sex which characterizes the African adolescent is, in the present writer's view, merely one symptom of a general condition, one more example of the all-or-none attention which is part and parcel of the lack of personal integration which has now become the clearest feature of African mentality." These labels that have persisted for centuries have a real-world impact, especially when they are promoted by the very institutions that have a responsibility for policies around sexual health. Stay tuned for more videos on where racism comes from. And please like, share, and subscribe.